Hey everybody, Fire Mama here, and today in this video I have Bo, who is my husband, in the kitchen with me, and we're gonna make some, thank you, make pickles. When my train of thought goes south, he's there to put me back on the rails. So first let's talk about, is there a certain kind of pickle that is better, I'm sorry, cucumber that makes pickles?
Of course there is. There are obviously all kinds of cucumbers that you could choose from. There's Miss Pickler, there's pickling hybrids, there's everything under the sun. So my favorite, the one I prefer, is homemade pickle. So that's just mine. It's typically grows to about 6 inches long, and it's just the right size for what we like to do. So that's the one that we grow, and this year it was a little strange. It's been dry, so
none of our pickles look anything like that.
They kind of got a little bit short and fat, but we're going to use them anyway.
Okay, so also this is just our own recipe that we do, and I'll let him talk more about that when he does it. But the reason why he does the pickles is because he makes the best pickles. When it comes to putting up our produce, he only has 2 jobs that he has to do. One is making pickles, and the other is doing the sauerkraut, which will be a video on that too, because it's just about time for us to cut the cabbage. But anyway, and as always, we started with clean counter, clean bowls, clean cutting boards, clean hands, everything clean. And also, you know, you don't have to follow our recipe, but I encourage everybody to get them I use the Ball canning book, Ball Blue canning book, which we actually have several from way in the past to present. But if you find another canning book that you want to try, go ahead and use that too. But I encourage everybody to learn to start preserving their food. Alright, so now I'm going to shut up, and I am going to turn it over to him.
Yeah, shut up. Yeah, we'll see. So, as she said, she encourages using the Blue Ball canning book. So, I grew up with watching my grandmother and my aunts do the canning. So, a lot of what I grew up with wasn't necessarily that preferred method. So, we'll try to stick to that. But basically, I used 2 recipes. My Aunt Mildred is what got me started with bread and butter pickles, and that's what we're going to make today. So I've started with her recipe, and over the years I've kind of tweaked it a little bit, so we'll kind of share those 2 recipes at some point. But today right now we're just starting the process. We're starting with the cucumbers. Basically, we've already washed them. Just a little simple tip, most of you will know, some of you may not, but all the little spots on the cucumbers, there's little spines, so you wash those off, and you just basically slice the cucumbers in about 1/4 inch slices. Very simple. Sharp knife helps, obviously. I start with about 6 pounds of cucumbers, and we'll just slice those up, put them in a big bowl, and then, like I say, 6 pounds of cucumbers, and then onions, about 2 pounds of onions, and I slice those maybe a little bit thinner than 1/4 inch. The same thing, just slice them up.
So I'm going to get the camera, and I'm going to move it around so you guys can get a closer look at what he's doing.
And we won't bore you with slicing the whole 6 pounds. It's all the same. One cucumber.
So he got busy talking, and he threw an end in, and now that's what we're looking for. That's the bloopers of canning.
She says I did anyway. I don't see another end, but
Okay.
we'll find it.
All right.
Okay, so anyway, key point, cut both ends off first, get them out of the way. Like I said, slice them about 1/4 of an inch thick. One cucumber, I mean, we're not going to bore you with the whole thing. One cucumber, same as the other. I say that, but I'm going to show you something a little bit different here in just a second, because not all cucumbers are the same. So like I said, this year was a dry year, so we got some, they got a little fat, funny shaped ends. We got some that look more like ping pong balls. So we're going to use those anyway. Why waste them?
Waste not, want not.
So same thing, just cut the ends off, slice them up, and they will be fine.
I'm going to interrupt by saying, even though you can't see me, your ends, don't waste them. If you have chickens, the chickens love them. Or you can make compost out of them. Or you can use them to make homemade vinegars. Or you can put them in water and make like a cucumber water. I'm done now.
Okay, so as I said, you just slice those up, and then slice your onions the same way, and just kind of layer those in a large bowl. And I am not a master chef, so I take a little more time and protect my fingers. So, and when you put them in, you can leave your onions whole, or you can break them apart. Doesn't matter. As you cook them, they'll come apart. So we've got, like I said, we've got 6 pounds of cucumbers, 2 pounds of onions, and about 1/4 cup of canning salt. Now the blue ball book says canning salt. Everything says canning salt now. Salt is salt. So it doesn't have to be canning salt or pickling salt, as long as it's just salt. Don't get the iodized stuff, but just salt. Salt is salt. So just kind of sprinkle that over. I do it just kind of as I put it in, just kind of layer it in. Cut more cucumbers and more onions. Spread a little bit more salt. And like I said, just sprinkle some salt in once in a while, and then every once in a while, what I do is I just add some ice, and that's just to keep them cold. And then once I get everything layered in, get some ice in on top, then I fill it up with water just to cover the cucumbers and the onions, and then we'll let it soak for about at least 3 hours. You could do, if you do it at night, you could let it soak overnight, and then actually process the pickles the next morning. But at least let it soak for at least 3 hours, and that helps somewhat brine the pickles a little bit. Then once you get done, you'll rinse them out and you'll process them.
But if you've paid any attention to any of the videos I've done, we always get sidetracked by stuff, and it always goes longer than what we really say.
So 3 hours, 24 hours, really doesn't matter. So they'll be fine in the salt water. Okay, so Fire Mama got a bite of sandwich, so she's going to be quiet for a minute. So I'm going to add some water. And Fire Mama says to say, I prefer using filtered water. I do not prefer using filtered water. She prefers using filtered water. I grew up on well water, so I prefer using well water. But
well, we don't have any.
we could use pond water, but that would be gross. So, but she just doesn't like using chlorinated water, basically from the city water supply. So,
It's okay for a bath. I just don't want it in my food.
Or to swim in. But, so if you want to go get some more water, more filtered water, that would be great. I'll talk to him for a while. So, back to the recipe is when, like I say, I grew up with my grandmother and my aunt doing canning and pickling and all that. So a lot of the processes they used back then are not really approved by the USDA now. So in my aunt's process for her bread and butter pickles, she didn't actually use the boiling water bath. She basically got the jars hot. She boiled the pickles and the brine and everything, put them in the jars hot and sealed them, and they would seal just by cooling down, which we won't do that. We'll use the boiling water bath. It's the same thing, but we'll go ahead and run them through the boiling water bath when we're done, just to be a little on the safer side. I have done it her way, and it's been just fine, but we'll follow the modern standards at this point. But I think we got more water coming. One of the things too that I didn't mention when we were slicing this up, you could use a mandolin to slice them up. It might be a lot quicker, but
Just like a firefighter, I'm here with water.
Pour it in, firefighter. You could use a mandolin to slice them. It might be a little quicker, but like I say, I grew up doing it the old-fashioned way, so just a knife and a cutting board works for me. So
I'm gonna grab the camera and bring it in closer so they can see
Okay.
that. I can't see. Can they see?
Yep, they do. All right, there you go. And there it is, sitting in ice water or a brine, ice water brine, and we'll just cover it up with a flour sack towel and leave it sit.
All right, we are back. We are ready for the next phase of making pickles, and believe it or not, it's just been a little over 3 hours. We didn't get that far off track. So I'm gonna let Bo here continue with telling you what he's doing. I'm gonna be behind the camera so I can get close-ups of what he's doing, and you can see the stuff that he's putting in and how he's doing it. So ready?
I'm up? Okay. All right, so like she said, it's been a little bit over 3 hours. So what I'm going to do now, so I guess what we've already done, we've got the jars in the water bath canner heating up right now. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix the ingredients and get them heating up on the stove. The like I say, the recipe that I use is pretty much my Aunt Mildred's recipe. I tweaked it just a little bit. So what we're going to start with is 6 cups of apple cider vinegar, and 3 cups of just plain white sugar. And if you see it or not, 2 tablespoons of mustard seed. And then in this one we've got, if you can see it or not, we've got 2 teaspoons of turmeric, 2 teaspoons of celery seed, and 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns. Just dump that all in. Just get that mixed up a little bit. And we're going to put it on the stove, and we'll bring this to a boil. We'll bring it just to a boil. And once it gets to that point, then we'll add our cucumbers and onions after we rinse those. So I'm going to take this to the stove, And we'll get this started heating up, and then we'll go rinse the cucumbers. Now the seeds, spices, whatever you want to call them, I don't tie them into a spice bag. I just put them in there loose. They'll end up in your jars. They're all small enough. They'll soften up, and they're perfectly edible. Be just fine. You could add, if you wanted to, you could tweak the recipe. You could add cloves, whole cloves. You could add cinnamon stick if you wanted to. Just whatever taste you want. If you did add a cinnamon stick, I would probably put that in a spice bag, or pick that out when you go to can them. But I don't use those, so do whatever you want. Suit your taste. Okay, let's go rinse the cucumbers. You just want to rinse them basically to get the brine or the salt water off. Doesn't have to be perfect, just give them a good rinse. Just shake the water off for the most part. And dump them in the crock. Okay, so we've got our vinegar, sugar, and our spices in the pan, and basically we're going to bring that just to a boil, and you can see it's just starting to boil. So what I'm going to do now is just add our cucumbers and onions. If I can do that without making a big mess, so just basically just by handfuls I'll drop those in. It doesn't look like there's much basically brine in there, but these will displace it. So the question is, do we have enough pan? You've got just a little bit of water still in the pan where it didn't quite get it all drained out. But it's not going to hurt anything, but try not to get any more of it than I have to. Try to get that mixed up into our vinegar solution, and we'll just let this continue to heat. We'll bring this back just to a boil again, and we'll stir it occasionally just to make sure everything gets in the mixture. They'll soften up a little bit as they get warmer. Like I say, we'll bring that back to a boil, just to a boil, and then we'll turn the heat down, and we'll keep them warm while we fill the jars up. So we'll just let that come to a boil. We've got a small pan of water in the back here that we brought to bringing it up to. We'll bring it up to a boil, and then we'll shut it off, and we'll put our canning lids in that just to soften up the seal. We don't want boiling water bath canner. You see we've got our jars getting hot. So they're kind of waiting on us. And as soon as this gets warm, we will start canning and be close to being done. Okay, so if you can see it, you start seeing the things moving around. You can see a little bit of bubbles going on. It's just about coming to a boil here just shortly. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our jars out. Let this continue to heat up a little bit. We'll get the jars out of the boiling water bath canner and we'll set them up and then we'll start filling them up.